This is Optimal Living Daily, episode 736, How to Stop Procrastinating in 5 Steps, Part 1 by Ramit Sethi of I'llTeachYouToBeRich.com, and I'm your narrator, Justin Malik. Happy Saturday. This is an atypical podcast, one where I narrate blogs, articles, even excerpts from books sometimes that I think will help you optimize your life. And always with permission from the authors, by the way, otherwise that would be copyright infringement. And today I'm going to read the first half of an article from I Will Teach You to Be Rich, and then finish it up tomorrow. But before we get to it, thank you to Storyworth for sponsoring this episode. Just in time for the holidays, this is a great gift idea. Get it for someone you love, and each week, Storyworth will send them an email with a question about their life. They simply reply to the email with their story, or they can record it over the phone, and after a full year, their stories are bound into a beautiful keepsake book. And you can get $20 off through my link, storyworth.com/old. That's storyworth.com/OLD. I gifted it to someone in my family. I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. So for now, let's get right to it as we optimize your life. How to Stop Procrastinating in 5 Steps, Part 1 by Ramit Sethi of I'llTeachYouToBeRich.com. So you're listening to an article about how to stop procrastinating instead of doing what you're supposed to be doing. That's okay. I'm not going to lecture you to finish your goals, and I definitely won't act like I haven't been there before. What I am going to do is show you the exact steps you can take to demolish procrastination. They are: Step 1, be brutally honest about your priorities. Step 2, stop feeling guilty. Step 3, change how you describe yourself. Step 4, build systems to accomplish goals. And Step 5, reward yourself for your work. Let's not waste any more time and jump into it. How to stop procrastinating in 5 steps. Step 1, be brutally honest about your priorities. How often has someone asked you to do something and you told them, I don't have enough time for that right now? For example, friend, hey, do you want to check out that new bar tonight? You, sorry, I'm super busy tonight, maybe some other time. Proceed to stay at home, binge watching Netflix all night. Another example, friend, I'm going to take that improv class you said you were interested in. Want to join? You, sorry, I don't have enough time right now. We love using time as an excuse because it's easy. Who's going to accuse you of having too much time on your hands? Nobody. When we make this excuse, however, we only cheat ourselves. Instead, it's better to be honest with yourself and others and say, I appreciate the offer, but that's just not a priority for me right now. Doing this forces you to confront the lies you often tell yourself and helps you recognize what is important to you and what isn't. Plus, who would you admire more? The person who says, I don't have enough time and doesn't show up to anything, or the person who tells you, I appreciate the offer, but that's just not one of my priorities right now? Of course, it's the person who is honest with you. Once you start recognizing what is not a priority, you'll start recognizing things that are. Action step, be honest and evaluate your priorities. To help you evaluate what is a priority for you, I highly recommend what I call an honesty bath. To do this, keep track of the goals you make for this month. Record them with a Word doc, pen and paper, Excel, whatever. Then put them in a drawer and set a calendar alert for the last day of the month. At the end of the month, go through the list and see which ones you actually accomplished and which ones you didn't get to. Then decide whether you're going to delete, defer, or do it. If you say you're going to wake up every day at 7 a.m., but every morning just slap the snooze button until it's 8 a.m., you're not going to wake up at 7 a.m. Delete. If you claim you're going to make your bed every morning, but have a huge project at work and haven't worked on it in the last 3 weeks, guess what? You're not going to make your bed every morning while you have this crazy project. Defer. Are you actually headed to the gym 3 times a week like you said you would? Keep doing it. This takes a lot of self-awareness because you have to be ruthlessly honest about your strengths and weaknesses. But by looking at your past behavior, you can drastically change your future behavior for the better. The best part? It stops that low-level anxiety we all get from having a bunch of goals bounce around in our head. Once you make the decision, you can live guilt-free and use your energy to commit to things you'll actually do, which brings us to step 2, stop feeling guilty. It's interesting how people fall into the paradox of guilt and don't even realize it's happening. How often have you talked to a friend about working out, saving money, or studying for school and heard them say something like, "Yeah, I know I really should be doing that, but," followed by some lame excuse as to why they're procrastinating on something important? "I know I really should be doing that" is just code for, "I'm not going to do that at all." It's the same with people in credit card debt. Many don't even know how much debt they have. They'd rather avoid their statements and bury their head in the sand than face the reality of how much they owe. Why does this happen? Guilt, plain and simple. It's the reason why we brush things off with meaningless excuses and run away from the actual issue. If you truly want to stop procrastinating and become a productivity machine, you need to hold yourself accountable. Action step: don't run away from your guilt. When you do feel guilty, take these 4 steps to address it. 1. Acknowledge the guilt. When you realize that you feel guilty about something you're putting off, like not hitting the gym or saving up for retirement, I want you to just take a moment and acknowledge the feeling. Recognize your guilt and ask yourself, what is making you feel guilty? That leads us to 2. Use the 5 whys technique. This technique comes from a Japanese industrialist named Sakichi Toyota. He developed a method to find solutions at the root of recurring issues related to his manufacturing plant and help blow up his company into a household name. You might have heard of it, Toyota Motors. At the heart of the technique is the question, why? The idea is that most all problems can be solved by asking why 5 times, sometimes even less, and getting to the root issue. Say you feel guilty because you've been meaning to open an investment account, but haven't. You can utilize the technique like this. Why do I feel guilty? Because I haven't opened an investment account. Why haven't I opened an investment account? Because I don't even know where to start. Why is that? Because I bought an investment book years ago and haven't read it yet. Why haven't I read it? Because it's in a box in my basement underneath the Christmas decorations. See what happened? In less than 5 whys, we figured out how to begin solving this huge issue with just 1 step, taking the time to find a book. Now this person knows the first step to getting started with his investments. 3, write it all down. Take everything from steps 1 and 2 and write it all down. Your guilt, each of the whys you asked, and how you can solve everything. This will help you get a clear understanding of how your mind works when it comes to guilt and problem solving. It will also give you a good place to go back to when you decide to finally solve the problem, which brings us to 4, take action tomorrow. That's right, this is Ramit approved procrastination. Once you write everything down, I want you to step back and give it some space. You want to know how to stop procrastinating? It's not by trying to do everything at once, because we're humans, and as humans we are naturally cognitive misers and have limited willpower. Just doing the 5 whys and investigating your guilt takes a lot. So just pick it up later when you're fresh and ready to take action. I suggest setting aside some time in a day or 2 so you don't keep pushing it off. The next time you find yourself saying something like, "Oh, I'll get to it later," stop and evaluate why. Maybe it's not a priority for you right now. Maybe you just don't want to do it. Both of these thoughts are perfectly fine. You'll save everyone a lot of time and effort by recognizing and acting on what's really going on. Step 3, hear that in tomorrow's episode. You just listened to part 1 of the post titled How to Stop Procrastinating in 5 Steps by Ramit Sethi of IWillTeachYouToBeRich.com. I'll share my comments, but first, big thanks again to Storyworth for sponsoring this episode. This is a really great gift idea for a loved one that enjoys telling stories. I gifted it to my sister actually, and I'm already starting to see her stories. What's cool is that they'll send questions every week for an entire year to a loved one, or yourself if you want to, and the answers get put together into a beautiful hardcover book. It's a great way to learn about your relatives. I've already learned a lot about my sister, and she's only 3 questions in. Like, she shared some of her first memories that I had never heard about before. It's really cool that I get to see the stories, but the book will be passed down to her kids and they will learn a lot about their mom. Plus, I love that I can tailor the questions, so if I know one doesn't apply to her, I can change it or add my own. And the stories are private, only shared with family you choose, but what's really cool is that you can choose an unlimited amount of people to share them with. Also, besides words, the stories can include photos and be done via audio. So there's multiple options and ways to share stories, which is awesome. And you can get $20 off when you subscribe by using my link, storyworth.com/old. Again, for $20 off, visit storyworth.com/OLD when you subscribe. Back to today's post, procrastination is probably the most common struggle that I hear from listeners of this show. So hopefully this two-parter will help you out. If you don't struggle with procrastination, you're probably in the minority. But in either case, I really like that 5 whys technique. I think that's been mentioned here on the show before, but I can't remember from which article. Possibly Steve Pavlina? Maybe not. But I think you should try it when the opportunity comes up. And again, as a refresher, it's a technique to help you get to the root of an issue. His example was trying to figure out where guilt was coming from, but really this can be used for anything. So if you're struggling with why you're feeling a certain way about a specific situation, or even bigger things like goals or whatever, try it out and definitely write it all out. All right, I'll leave it there for today. Thank you for listening all the way through. Hope you're having a great weekend if you're listening in real time, or just a great normal day if you're listening sometime in the future. And I'll see you tomorrow where we'll finish up this post and where your optimal life awaits.
Hey, this is Dan from the Optimal Finance Daily podcast, which is a lot like this show, except more focused on personal finance. Justin handpicks the best posts he can find from blogs and authors like Ramit Sethi, Mr. Money Mustache, and more, and I read them to you 5 days a week. So if you enjoy this podcast, come on over and subscribe to Optimal Finance Daily too. And together, we'll optimize your financial life.
You've been listening to Optimal Living Daily. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on each new episode and head to oldpodcast.com. That's OLDpodcast.com for a free gift as well as more actionable tips and resources to help you maximize your potential. Thanks for joining us, and remember, your optimal life awaits.